If you had the chance to interrupt a TV or radio signal to spread your own message to thousands of people, would you? What would you say? It turns out that radio and TV hackers have done this on several occasions. Some were just pranks. Others were politically motivated messages. But the most disturbing incidents are the ones that don't seem to make a lot of sense. The most mysterious messages are the ones that still remain unsolved today. These are 10 shocking incidents of hackers interrupting broadcasts. Daytime television is usually your standard talk shows or dramas, but viewers in Great Falls, Montana got the surprise of their life during an episode of The Steve Wilkos Show, entitled Teen Cheaters Take Lie Detectors. The emergency broadcasting system popped up on the screen to warn people about an impending zombie attack. A voiceover announced, "Civil authorities in your area have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Follow the messages on your screen that will be updated as information becomes available. Do not attempt to approach or apprehend these bodies, as they are considered extremely dangerous." The TV station, KRTV, and their parent company, Cordillera Communications, initially reported that they were not going to report it to local law enforcement, because they all had a good laugh at the prank, and there was no harm done. However, the FCC takes these crimes very seriously, and they passed the incident along the FBI. As far as we know, the hacker was never caught. Number 9. Vrillon, the alien overlord. In 1977, the 5 o'clock news on Southern Television in North Hampshire, UK was interrupted by a deep, static voice of an alien life form. This is the voice of Vrillon, a representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you. For many years you have seen us as lights in the skies. The broadcast went on for 6 minutes. They went on to say that the Galactic Command had come from the Intergalactic Association to warn us about the destiny of the human race. The mysterious voice said that humans need to get rid of their weapons and live peacefully, or horrible things would come to pass. Theorists now believe that the signal was coming from the nearby Isle of Wight, but since no one has ever come forward to take responsibility for the hack, no one can be sure where it came from, or why they pulled off such an elaborate prank. Some believe it may have been done by English members of an alien-loving cult that was known to exist in America. Number 8. The Kaluga Incident. One of the earliest known broadcast intrusions was in 1966. This was during the Cold War, so tensions between the Soviet Union and the United States were very high, leaving people on edge. At that time, pirate radio was very common, especially in smaller Russian towns. In Kaluga, a town 100 miles from Moscow, local teenagers interrupted radio transmissions to spit out curse words or speak against the government. Local authorities tended to feel that it was all in good fun, and let it slide with a "boys will be boys" mentality. The fact that they never got in trouble for their immaturity gave the teens a false sense of confidence that they had outsmarted the authorities. One day, they went a step too far. An unnamed 18-year-old prankster interrupted jazz music to falsely report that the United States sent nuclear warheads to the USSR and that they all needed to take shelter, which obviously sent the town into a very real panic. According to newspaper reports, he was caught and had his equipment confiscated, but we can't help but wonder if he may have received a visit from the KGB for added emphasis. Number 7. Max Headroom hack. In November 1987, a video of a man wearing a plastic mask of the character Max Headroom interrupted the evening news on WGN Chicago. Employees were able to quickly switch it off the air. After failing this first attempt, the hacker tried again with another local station, WTTW, during an episode of Doctor Who. This time, they succeeded, and viewers saw the video of a man they now call the Max Headroom hacker. There was no coherent message that anyone can interpret. The hacker spoke in riddles and hummed songs that viewers would later have to identify. He did vulgar things, like hold up a dildo, and expose his rear end so a woman dressed in a costume could slap him. At least one or more people were helping him make the video, but they have never been caught. While there have been several theories as to who the hacker may have been, all of them involve teenagers, so none of them actually make much sense. In order to pull this off, the hacker would have had to have equipment that was equal to, or more powerful than, the signal of the TV station. This means that someone either broke into a TV station to play the tape, or it could have been done by disgruntled employees. But who would go through so much trouble and risk arrest just to play a prank? It's very possible that there is more to the message that we don't understand. Number 6. Israeli hack. In 2016, Channel 2 in Israel was playing an episode of Big Brother when it was interrupted by a hacker from the Palestinian terror group, Hamas. The message showed images of dead bodies and funerals. It went over every single instance when an Israelite killed a Palestinian, and told Israelites to leave the country, or there would be a reign of terror over them. This hack, obviously, was no joke. All of this is very real. The war between Israel and Palestine has been going on for years, and as modern technology advances, it's not surprising that hackers would move on with those tactics as part of the battle. Number 5. The Playboy block. Lust is one of the 7 deadly sins, so it only makes sense that hardcore Christians would be against the Playboy channel. In 1987, an employee of a TV station called the Christian Broadcast Network named Thomas Haney decided to interrupt adult content stations with biblical verses. One of the messages was typed out in block letters. "Thus saith the Lord thy God, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Repent. The kingdom of God is at hand." He did this 3 times. When the FCC sent him to court, he was charged 3 years of probation, 150 hours of community service, and he had to pay a $1,000 fine. Number 4. The Captain Midnight broadcast. In the 1980s, anyone who installed a satellite dish on their roof could pick up HBO for free, in addition to extra channels they may not otherwise get with their basic cable package. 25-year-old Florida resident John McDougall had a satellite dish business, and the majority of his customers came from people looking to get HBO. In 1986, HBO began to scramble their satellite signal and demanded $12.95 a month to watch their content. This meant McDougall's dish business would soon go bankrupt. McDougall owned a 30-foot industrial-grade satellite in front of his store, so he essentially had his own TV station. He gave himself the superhero nickname Captain Midnight. Instead of using his powers for good, he essentially did the equivalent of an angry YouTube comment about the situation. He interrupted the HBO signal just to spread this message, "Good evening, HBO." From Captain Midnight. $12.95 a month? No way. The message stayed on the air for 4 minutes straight before the network was able to remove it. Hellfire rained down on the employees at HBO for having a vulnerable satellite signal, and the Hughes Corporation even threatened to shut the network down if they could not find the man responsible for the hack. They feared that someone had gotten control over the system. In the media, HBO called Captain Midnight a domestic terrorist, and the FCC threatened to fine the culprit $100,000 if he did not appear in court. The FBI found McDougall and arrested him. The judge reduced his sentence to a $5,000 fine. Years later, McDougall says he doesn't regret the hack, because he still believes the corporation was overcharging their customers. Number 3. The Disney porn incident. When I think of Disney movies, I think of mermaids, talking mice and magical fairy tale endings, not hardcore pornography. That's what a horrified mother of 3 got when her kids were watching Disney's Lilo and Stitch via Dish Network. Georgie Brown of Fairview, North Carolina recorded the movie for her 3 kids who adore Stitch and his crazy alien antics. She started the movie for her kids and left the room. Many parents, including myself, find that Disney movies are a great way to keep the kids busy while working on chores or getting dinner ready. However, in this case, not so much. About a minute into the recording, the Disney movie dissolved into a pixelated blur, and was suddenly replaced with the sights and sounds of obscene pornography. Hearing sounds that she knew should not be a part of the movie, Georgie raced back into the room to stop the recording, but at that point the damage was done. Her 3-year-old daughter was crying and her 5-year-old son covered his ears and ran out of the room. I have no idea what her 1-year-old son was thinking, but I'm sure it wasn't good. Brown initially thought that the kids had changed the channel, but discovered that it was part of the recording from Disney Channel. According to Dish Network's senior manager of corporate communications, John Hall, they are taking this matter very seriously and have engineering groups actively investigating the reports. He continued to explain that Dish goes to great lengths so that such mistakes do not occur. Hall told the New York Daily News, "As a matter of long practice, we have strong technical and operational controls in place, including content encryption, to ensure that customers receive content they want and, as importantly, are prevented from seeing content they do not want." It would seem that instead of satellite or mouse ears, rabbit ears may have been a better method of receiving the TV signal. Number 2. The Area 51 caller. In 1997, a DJ named Art Bell ran a radio show Coast to Coast AM, which specializes in news related to claims of paranormal phenomena. At around 1 a.m., he received a phone call live on the air from someone claiming to be a former employee at Area 51. The man sounds scared and in a panic, as if he needs to tell the truth to the public before it's too late. He says that he has been on the run across the country, because extra-dimensional beings have infiltrated NASA and Area 51, and that the aliens are planning to create disasters in major cities in order to have more control over the human population. Listening back to the recording of the phone call, the man sounds genuinely scared. About 3 minutes into their conversation, something interrupts the radio transmission. The phone call begins to break up, and there was total silence for several seconds. When Art Bell came back on the air, he claimed that their equipment suddenly had a massive heart attack and their show had to go on a backup system. If the caller was lying, he is a very talented actor, and Coast to Coast AM would have had to be in on it. Then, of course, if you believe in aliens, there is always the possibility that it could be real. Over 20 years have passed since the incident, and there still has never been anyone to come forward claiming responsibility for this call. Before we get to number 1, if you liked this video, please show your gratitude by hitting the like button. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon. We bring new videos every week. On the night before Halloween in 1938, a New York radio station called the Columbia Broadcasting System, which eventually became CBS, played out an hour-long drama called War of the Worlds, based on the novel by H.G. Wells. The radio play was written by Orson Welles, who would later go on to become the famous director of Citizen Kane. The drama plays out like a typical radio broadcast. Music is interrupted with news that explosions have been seen on the surface of Mars. It cuts back to the music again and continues to go back and forth with reports of a UFO landing in Grover's Mill, New Jersey. For anyone who tuned in at any time after the initial introduction, many people believed that this was actually true. According to the New York Times, hundreds of people called the police, and there were traffic jams of people trying to evacuate the East Coast. However, according to an investigation by Snopes, they believe that many of the stories in the media were exaggerated, and those very few people who were listening to the show actually believed it was real. Either way, War of the Worlds is still remembered as being one of the greatest radio pranks of all time. Today, there is a monument at the real-life location of the fictional Martian landing site in New Jersey. That's it for this. If you feel there are some other hacks that should have made it to this list, feel free to post them in the comment section below and we will include them in the next one.